Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of React Native Radio. My name's James, and I'm going to be your host for this episode. Tim and Ricky aren't available today, but we're joined by Yair Bar-On, who is going to discuss today's topic with us, Test Like a Butterfly, Sting Like a Bee. Yair, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you for having me. My name is Yair. I'm from a company called Test Fairy. Test Fairy is a mobile testing platform. I'll tell you all about it in this episode. In general, we help companies streamline their mobile development process. We do quite a few things in the mobile space. We handle app distribution in an enterprise environment, connecting to your single sign-on and so on. We can record videos showing you what users did while using your product. We allow users to report bugs by shaking their device, and they can sketch on the screen. We integrate with your Jira, Trello, Slack. We do a lot of things. Before doing Test Fairy, I was a developer. I wrote code in C++ and in Java, mostly server side. I was doing a lot of marketing, and Test Fairy is here for 7 years already. And this is me.
Wow, that's a really varied career. I like it.
Hey folks, are you trying to figure out how to stay current with React Native? Maybe you heard the Chain React conference was canceled and you're a little bit sad about that. Well, I borrowed their dates and I'm doing an online conference. So if you want to come and learn from the best of the best from React Native, then come do it. We have people like Christopher Shadow from Facebook. He's going to come and he's going to talk to us and answer questions about the origins of React Native. We're also going to have Gant Laborde from Infinite Red and several of the panelists and past panelists from React Native Radio. So come check it out at reactnativeremoteconf.com. That's reactnativeremoteconf.com.
Test Fairy, though, that's your current project, isn't it?
Yes, Test Fairy.
Okay. Would you like to tell me and everybody else exactly what it is that Test Fairy does and why I should be using it?
Sure. So as I mentioned, Test Fairy does quite a few things. I think the highlight would be video recordings. We can show you what users did while using your app before something went wrong. And by the nature of mobile development, when you have a problem, you need to talk to your user. And it's not like a bug that you would easily regenerate on your PC or your Mac. The variety of devices and the environment factors are so complicated. And if there's a problem on a mobile device, it would help you a lot if you could see what the user did. So with Test Fairy, you'll be able to see a video showing what that user did, where they touched the screen, what was the exact experience, and if something went wrong, if there's a crash, or if the user had a feedback saying this is not working well, you will fully understand what they did before that problem. So
that sounds incredible.
That we do with video recording.
Yeah, so at the moment, if somebody's got a problem with an app or a piece of software that I've written, sometimes maybe I get an email or a tweet or something, but nobody ever includes like, I'm on this version of iOS, I'm using this browser, this is exactly what I did. But with Test Fairy, I can literally get a video recording and I can see what the user was doing?
Yes, and not only that, you'll get a video recording, you'll get logs from the device. NSLog, Logcat, you'll get any parameter that we can pick up from the device. And we'll also monitor levels of CPU, memory, phone reception, Wi-Fi. So you can have a very large amount of information that can help you understand what happened there. If somebody's driving their car and there's a problem because they had no reception and then the app crashed. In many cases, you will need that information and you'll see, okay, there's no reception here, and that's where the problem started. Or you can see that there's a network request. The app is contacting the server. It takes a few seconds, and then the server sends a reply, and then there's a crash. The user is usually not aware of that. With Test Fairy, we monitor also a network call, so it will help you to empower your testing. And I put it on steroids. It's like if you could connect any I like to call it the CT and MRI and EKG and X-ray and any medical device to your mobile app, as if you could debug that in the field with thousands of users, you will fully understand what's happening on every one of those devices.
Awesome. And I'm guessing we just load in the software just as part of the page load, and it would just run in the background. It just monitors stuff.
Yep. Testfairy has an SDK. It requires one line of code. We support every platform, of course, React Native and Flutter and everything that you might be using. Integrating the SDK is very easy. And once the SDK is in and you call Testfairy begin, then recording will start.
Nice. What's the overhead like on sort of processor and stuff?
So I always like to say that there's no overhead, and then explain that there's a very little overhead, because there's no such thing as no overhead. But the overhead is very low. We actually take a screenshot once every second and push those screenshots to the cloud and do all the video processing on the cloud. So we don't do any video processing on the client, and we don't save anything to the disk. Now, if the network is slow, then we'll reduce the frame rate to 1 frame per 2 seconds or per 3 seconds. So we'll make sure that we are not causing any overload on the CPU. If we'll slow down your app, we'll be kicked out the next minute. So I know that there's zero tolerance to anything that will slow down your product, especially in testing. So it works pretty good. It works.
That's really good. So I've got, I won't mention any names, but some of the work that I've been doing for clients uses some extra software, which does some of the things that you're talking about. And it has quite a large overhead. Like we're adding over a second loading times to applications and stuff for things that it really shouldn't be taking that long. So it's great to see that you've got a bit of an eye on the fact that performance really does matter. And like if you need an app like Testfairy to be successful, you need it to be pretty invisible in the background for the users.
Absolutely. We did quite a lot of work in that area. There are lots of mechanisms that will detect that the app is working too hard, and now this is the time to go idle, because you would prefer your app to work perfectly and not have any monitoring than having a monitoring that will escalate a problem. So if the app is working too slow, the network is too slow, if there is any problem, we'll go idle, wait for it to recover, and then come back. And of course, we'll have an event saying we're going idle because of that problem, because we don't want to cause any inconvenience. But we have zero complaints about that. And I will say that if it's a game with 60 frames per second, then that is something else. But most of the apps don't have those problems.
Awesome. So the video sounds like it's kind of one of the killer features. What else does it do that is going to be beneficial?
So other things that we do is allowing users to report bugs from the app. So you can shake your device and then you can sketch at the screen and point out anything graphic you want to send to that developer. Instead of sending them a screenshot manually and downloading that screenshot and sending it by email, or opening a Jira ticket or sending it on WhatsApp, whatever, just shake your device, sketch on the screen, and hit the send button, and we'll post it to Jira on your behalf. So we can work with Jira, Trello, Slack, GitHub issues. Even if it's Jira server behind firewall, we can work with that as well. It is very important to help the tester to report as many bugs as possible. If they'll think twice before reporting that bug and say, probably somebody else has already reported that, or it's probably...
You've worked with testers before, haven't you?
It's probably not important enough for me to send an email about it. And in those cases, you might miss valuable information. So if all the user needs to do is shake their device and hit a send button, they're more likely to report that bug. And that's the bug that we might be looking for. And if they won't report that bug during testing, we might find it at production. So the purpose of a good testing process, the goal is to have as many reports as possible, and then let us filter those reports in Jira or in Trello, and think that's important. Let's not give the tester to take the decision if that's important or not.
Okay, I mean that's actually a fantastic point, because I'm certain that people have found bugs on work that I've seen in the past, and they're just like, I just cannot be dealing with writing up a Jira ticket for something of this minor. But that feature is actually kind of for like the testers while you're in the development process, isn't it? So while you've got a test team out looking at it, they can just shake a test device.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Really nice.
How long would it take you to open a Jira ticket? 5 minutes? 10? 3? It's more than, if you're using an app.
Yeah.
We have, I'll talk here about a process we call continuous testing. It's a process where company employees do a dog food process where they use their company apps. One of our customers is Groupon. It's a great company, and they have several thousands employees. And all their companies use the dog food app, like I think they call it cat food, on a continuous basis. They have published that information in several case studies and then presentations they gave, so I'm not telling any secrets here. And the idea is that every new version that you build will be tested on a continuous basis. You don't need to send an app for testing. The fact that it's published, it's built on your Jenkins and then uploaded to a system like TestFairy and distributed to all company employees, and they use it continuously. That creates a process that never ends. And those people, if they're company employees, they want to help the company they work for. And if they find a problem, they want to report that problem because they want the company to succeed and have good products. Now,
I think that's fair.
They might be busy, and they might say, okay, let's report that bug tomorrow morning because now I'm busy with my kids, or I'm waiting for the bus, or I have an important phone call. If that will take them 10 seconds to report that bug, they'll do it now. And that's what I'm looking for. Report that bug now. Don't forget, because if you'll postpone that to tomorrow, you might not do that. You might forget that important comment that you wanted to add, and we might lose it.
Okay, so we've also got a good reason, a good way to get bugs reported ASAP, which I think is really positive. I love that idea of just being able to shake a device and then immediately being able to give feedback to the developers. The fact that it automatically logs that would be super useful in like a dev environment. I can definitely see the benefit of that. Does this work on non-mobile environments? Like if people are using, let's say, just a standard JavaScript kind of framework?
No, not at the moment.
It's got to be devices.
iOS and
Android. Okay, that's cool. What's the most sort of popular platform of that stuff is built in? Do you have stats on that? Like, is React Native versus Flutter versus just normal native Kotlin? Are there any stats?
React Native is definitely the most popular platform on our database. Flutter is coming up. Flutter is becoming very popular. I see that developers love it. I don't know where it's going and if it's going to compete or win, and no idea. It's a good platform, and I see the developers enjoy using it. But React Native is definitely number one.
That's actually really interesting. I love hearing that kind of news. Obviously, what kind of numbers of users do you have who are using TestFairy at the moment?
We're talking about thousands of companies.
Really? Fantastic.
Yep.
When I'm building a new product, G2I is the company that I call to help me find a developer who can build it. G2I is a hiring platform run by engineers that matches you with React, React Native, GraphQL, and mobile developers that you can trust. Whether you are a new company building your first product or an established company that wants additional engineering help, G2I has the talent you need to accomplish your goals. Go to g2i.co to learn more about what G2I has to offer. In my experience, G2I has linked me up with experienced engineers that can fit my budget. And the G2I staff are friendly and easy to work with. They know how product development works and can help you find the perfect engineer for your stack. Go to g2i.co to learn more about G2I.
Apart from the video recording and the easy bug logging, what other sort of features does TestFairy provide?
So we spoke about a process called continuous testing, where you keep releasing apps to your audience, and whenever there's a new version, you'll just release it and make sure that everybody's updated to the latest version. Now, the next thing that we've mentioned is making it easy for testers to report bugs. But now let's talk about developers. We want to make it easy for the developers to work on those bugs. We want to make those bugs as meaningful as possible with as much information as possible. And we mentioned video recording. We know for a fact that it helps developers fix bugs between 5 to 10 times faster because they see what's happening. But we don't want them to log into multiple dashboards and look for information in so many places. So one of the things that we did that turned out super successful was to integrate with all the bug systems that we can find. Jira, of course, is the most popular. Jira, Trello, we work with Slack and GitHub issues and many others. And opening the right Jira ticket for that developer with a video, with the logs, with a screenshot, with the stack trace, putting all the custom fields in Jira in the right place, and creating a perfect bug report, that helps developers work faster. So it's not just the testers that need to do it faster. We want to help the developers process that information and put as much information as possible that will allow them to group the bugs, to prioritize them manually or automatically. You can sort the bugs and look for bugs that were on specific devices or with specific attributes. For example, if it's a free user or a paid user, if that's somebody that had a problem with the shopping cart or with the login page, it might be different priorities. So we try to push as much information as possible in a way that will allow you to process that information, prioritize that, and have all the information in one place. You don't want to log in to one server to look at the logs, another server to look at the crash report, another server to look at the video, and in between go to your own systems, your own dashboards, and look for more information. We try to bring everything in one place, so it will be easy for you to process.
Yeah, what you've just described is literally exactly the environment I have found myself in before with some clients that I've worked with. So you have a Jira ticket that somebody's probably a tester's raised, and maybe there's a couple of screenshots on there. And then somewhere else, you've got to log into ClickTail, and there's a bit of a video with those kind of guys. And there's literally a whole other platform which has got all the logs and all the traces on. And you've somehow got to bring all these things together. And it's such a nightmare. And all anybody really wants is one ticket that says, hey, this is everything you need. Off you go. And actually, I think that is super powerful, because the development side I can talk about, because that's what I do. So I know exactly how frustrating it is when you've got some information, but not all the information you need. And the worst thing is when you're chasing bugs that you don't have the exact details of how to replicate it. And so you're like, is this a one-off? Can I actually make this ever happen again? Is it a problem that's going to affect everybody? And maybe you're just missing a crucial bit of information. That sounds really powerful. I mean, from my point of view, that's the kind of thing that I think is most impressive about this.
Absolutely. So making everybody happy, that's our goal.
Yeah.
And as I said, make it easy for the testers and the developers. And in between, you don't need anybody to do any manual work. Everything should be automatic. We're doing software. So when I talk to companies and being introduced to somebody that he's in charge of assigning opening the tickets and then adding the screenshots and then uploading the stuff, that's a waste of time. Use the software to do that, and you have another guy in the team that can fix bugs.
Yeah, that makes sense. So one question that I have is about the screen recordings and how you deal with user privacy. So if you've recorded somebody and they've got like credit card details or address details or something, how is that handled with TestFairy?
So that's a great question. There are a few layers of security that you need to handle. First, if you talk about that specific checkout page that has name, credit card, and CVV, you don't want anybody in the team to read the credit card and the CVV, even if it's for testing, because sometimes you'll test the app with real credit cards and you don't want to record that. So we allow to hide specific areas in the screen. You can specify that a text box that should be blacked out, and it will be done on the client side. So that's easy. Another thing is encryption. When you work with the cloud platforms, you actually upload to the cloud a lot of information. If you could encrypt that data with your private keys, that would be fantastic, and that is something we support. So the way it works is that in the SDK, you put your public key, and we'll help you create a public key and a private key. It's two commands. It's very easy. In the SDK, you add your public key that is used for encryption. And you keep your private key and you use it when next time you log into the system. You never share the private key with anybody but your team. And the decryption is done in JavaScript on your browser. So in practice, all the information that is kept on our servers is encrypted, and it's impossible for us or anybody that will accidentally, God forbid, access the server. It's impossible to read that data. So this is a best practice that we've heard of and found and researched. And I would strongly recommend any SaaS provider to allow that, to allow companies use their private keys to encrypt data, so that if something goes wrong, nobody can read your business information. So that's about hiding fields and about encrypting data. And on top of that, there's some corporate bureaucracy of working with single sign-on platforms. So if we'll work with a large company, we'll always integrate with their single sign-on. It could be Okta or Ping or IBM or Google or Microsoft, whichever single sign-on you might be using. So if somebody is leaving the company, you don't need to remove them from every platform you're using. The IT team removes them from their Okta, and then they cannot log in to anywhere else. And at the top of that, we work with the companies, in many cases, who require private clouds or on-prem systems. So having those layers of encrypting the data and then using single sign-on and using a firewall and using a private cloud, all those layers, one on top of the other, provide a pretty good solution in terms of security. So we're very strict about that, and we encourage users to use all those methods.
Yeah, that's pretty thorough. I like the single sign-on thing you're mentioning there as well. So you can imagine in like a corporate environment that wants to bring this in, that makes it very quick and easy for everybody to get access and integrate.
Absolutely. If you have companies with thousands of employees, every day somebody's leaving and somebody's joining, you will never update all those systems with new employees. It's not talking about a waste of time. It's impossible. You in the R&D will never know about somebody else that joined the marketing team. And you want that marketing guy to help you with testing. You want them to be able to download your consumer app that you're working on, and that will help you test it. By the way, we didn't discuss that about the audience that can use your app in the company, but the idea of having company employees test your app, and not only the R&D and the QA and the technical guys, that person in the marketing and in the sales and that secretary from the second floor or anybody in the company that has a mobile device can help you test. And the less technical they are, the closer they are to your customer, and they behave like your customer. They could be brilliant people, but not technical. And they'll use your app and they'll watch it, and they won't know if they should click on this button or the other button, and they'll make a mistake, and then you'll see it and say, okay, everybody's making that mistake. We are all engineers. We know that if there's a green button and a red button, we should push the green button. Everybody else is pushing the red button. Let's think about it. Or whatever. Or they might be using, crappy devices that they bought in the market that are not standard, and they have those problems that you're looking for.
That's a good point as well. I like that a lot. Yeah, the test suite is never going to encompass everything, is it? So most test suites I've worked with are the latest 3 to 5 handsets from a variety of manufacturers.
Exactly. How many devices can you have on your desk in the office? 10? Or if you have a lab with 30 devices, you're working in a company that has thousands of employees. If all those thousands of employees could use your app on the devices that they use, even if they're with their families, it could be even better. And you can create a large audience that will help you. So making it big and know who you work with.
Interesting. Does just from a practical point of view, in order to test an app that's in development using TestFairy, is there a sort of a proprietary piece of software you need to download on your phone, or literally, how do you put it in? The sort of shake to report a bug feature. How do you turn that into development and production mode on your app? So, like, presumably, when you ship your app, you don't want users to be able to shake their device and report bugs or accidentally do things like that. But you do want it to be very accessible to anybody you have who's testing it. So how do you sort of turn that on and off? And how do people who are testing it get access to the test features?
So that's an excellent question. Obviously, we have an SDK that you add to your app, and you can make it behave differently in release and debug versions. So in debug, you'll just start, you'll call TestFairy begin. That's the function that initializes the SDK. You'll call it when the app starts. And in release, you might not add the SDK or add it for a different use case. For example, reporting bugs. So if somebody in release wants to report a bug and they will contact your support team, the support team might reply, in order for us to understand the problem, would you mind going to the advanced support menu and click on report a bug? And at that time, in release, the user will see a disclaimer, you're about to be recorded for quality assurance purposes in order to help us reproduce a bug. The user will say yes. They'll see a blinking red dot saying you're now recorded, and they'll reproduce the bug. And the time from a bug report through escalation to the R&D will be 0, because you don't need the support team to understand what's happening for so many people. They will understand right away, and they will be able to escalate that bug in one click and push it to your Jira. And the time that you'll handle tickets will get lowered dramatically. So it's very important, the privacy thing. If you're recording live traffic, we encourage developers to notify the user you're about to be recorded for quality assurance purposes. And if the user knows that they're recorded, it's okay. So transparency is very important, and you need to notify the users what's happening. So just to sum it up, the difference between debug and release, in debug, you could record everything. It's company employees. They should be okay with that. They'll be notified and they'll agree to help you. If you're going to record live traffic, it's very important that users will know what's happening.
Early in my career, I figured out which jobs were worth working at and which ones weren't, mostly by trial and error. I created a system that I used to find jobs and later contracts as a freelancer. If you're looking for a job or trying to figure out where you should go next, then check out my book, The Max Coder's Guide to Finding Your Dream Developer Job. The book walks you through figuring out what you want, vetting companies that meet your criteria, meeting that company's employees, and getting them to recommend you for a job. Don't settle for whoever has listed their job on the job board. Go out and proactively find the job you'll love. Buy the book at devchat.tv/jobbook. That's devchat.tv/jobbook.
Yeah, I'm hearing you talk about the process there. It's clear just how much time gets saved without having to have people interfere and pass data between different people in order to get it from the user to a developer. To have that just automated and put through, that's such a nice feature to have, I think.
Let me give you 2 numbers that I heard from a large telco we work with in the US. What they say is that when they communicate with customers, they need 4 round trips of emails until they understand, in average, until they understand the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting number was that their conversion rate, the number of people who reply on their emails, and they'll get a reply on every 10 emails. So they get 10% conversion on emails, and they need 4 round trips. You do the math and understand that they need thousands of people with a problem to understand what's happening. And if they'll be able to reduce that number, instead of 4 round trips, if somebody contacts support and they get an automatic response, we got your request, you're being handled, you're number 3 in the queue, until we get to it, would you mind going to advanced support, click on the reproduce a bug and reproduce it? And then the support team will fully understand what's happening. And they don't need the user to reply on emails. They can escalate the problem, escalate the bug in 0 time. And that makes the whole process more efficient. So that's another way to look at this technology.
That is a great stat. I guess it didn't occur to me just the number of times you would have to reach out to a user in order to get actually what you need from them. Because of course people aren't that inclined to help out really. Like they're happy, they'll click a button and say that this is broken. But then the onus, exactly.
The average user will contact support and say, the app is not working. And then you'll ask, what exactly is not working? And
Yes.
He'll reply, the button is not working. And you'll ask him, which button are you clicking on? Said, the green button. And you'll ask, the one that says this or that. And did you have Wi-Fi or 3G? I don't remember. There's so many questions. And sometimes I feel sorry for support teams that they need to ask so many questions until they figure out what's happening. And the better your support team, the best support teams are the ones that can figure out things in very fast. That will help them close the loop faster. And more than that, think about how many times you got an email from your cellular carrier and replied. You probably never replied or replied very few times if they had a problem.
Yeah, I tend to not.
The average, we tend not to reply. So the statistics that I heard that 10% reply suddenly made so much sense. It's, yeah, I'm unfortunately in most cases, I'm not within those 10% that reply because, people are busy.
Exactly, yeah. So this sounds, I've worked in places that I think would definitely benefit from this kind of software. I think it sounds really cool. If I wanted to use it for my own tiny personal projects that I'm working on at home, and I'm just interested to know how many people and how many developers you've got working there in order to actually produce this.
So we're 10 guys, and most of us work in development. Yep. And even the ones who don't code are developers with their background. Both me and my co-founder, Gil, who was, this is the 3rd company we started together. We're both developers, and we worked in the same team many years ago, and that's where we met. We started this company after, in our previous company, we developed mobile apps. And we were looking for a solution that will help us test the new Android app that we developed. We developed a new app. We shipped it to a partner in Japan. It didn't work. We lost the contract, and we had no idea what happened back there. And we were looking for tools that will help us understand what the users did while using our app, and what made it crash or what made them not happy. And that's when the idea came up. And we developed a new tool that helped us back then with our app. It's still in the App Store. It's called GroupShot. It's still working. When we realized that it's working well, we shared it with a few friends. They said that it's amazing and they want to use it. And we said, okay, yeah, we'll share it with you. And we realized that it's much bigger than developing the apps that we're doing back then. And we started a new company for that.
That's fantastic. So this is actually just forged from your own necessity of needing to monitor your own apps.
Yeah, if you could say it is definitely.
Yeah. Okay. It's amazing when something you create that's sort of something that you make for you actually gains that traction. You realize how popular it can become, and the fact that it's now a fully fledged company. You've been doing it for a few years now, yeah.
Absolutely. I will say
Yeah.
that
Wow.
I think that I've seen quite a few companies who came up with ideas that problems that the founders had, and the solutions became new products. And that's actually very dangerous because you might fall in love with your own problem and think that everybody else have the same problem. And between you and me, we saw so many startups that solve problems that we don't have. And you think, who has this problem? And apparently, somebody had that problem and thought it's a good idea to create a solution for that problem. But before making it into a company, you need to make sure that it is a good idea that will turn into a good business.
That's really great advice for, I think, anybody looking to do anything on their own, isn't it? And you're an experienced CEO. You've been doing this for a long time, haven't you? So you must have seen some sites in your time.
Seen a lot.
Yeah. I think obviously focusing on is the problem really something that needs solving? I think that must be high on the list of things that everybody should look at. And I'm sure I've done work on things before that realistically you decide it's a really good idea. And when it comes down to it, there's no real need for it. There's no market for it when it really happens.
I think that validating ideas is critical in the startup world. As I said, so many people work on solutions for problems that not that many people have. And you need to make sure that this problem is real. There's a book that I really like. It's called Validating Product Ideas by a guy called Tomer Sharon. He was a UX researcher in Google and in WeWork and several other companies. And what he writes in that book, which I love, is he has some methods of how to validate an idea to make sure that it's going to be a successful product and you're not just solving your own problems. And there are a few examples there. If you look at like a dog walking app, if you're going to develop the next dog walking app, and you're going to interview your friends or people to make sure that they're going to buy a product or there is a validation for that idea. Don't go and ask them, would you buy that app? Would you spend $1 on this? Ask them about their habits, about their problems, about their challenges. Ask them about their dog and how many days they take out their dog. And if they're in the office, do they miss their dog? And did they ever call somebody to take out their dog when they're in the office and can't leave and go back home so early? And go around it and ask them if they spend money on quality food for their dogs or vitamins, or dog just eat the leftovers. And if they bought the most expensive, sexy, beautiful leash, or they just improvise, and see if they're spending money on their dog and if they have a problem of taking out the dog. And all that answers your question. And you don't need to ask them, would you buy that app or would you pay for this service? Because if you ask the right questions, then you have the answers in a very good way. So if you're building a product, you need to get into the head of your audience and ask the right people about their challenges, their problems. You might figure out that there's another problem next door, that this is you know how to solve that problem, and this is a much bigger problem. And not only that app that you wanted to develop.
That's very interesting. I think actually this is your pick for this week, isn't it? The book. Yeah. So that's Validating Product Ideas by Tomer Sharon. It's interesting. That reminds me a lot of the sort of psychology of sales. And a long time ago, I used to work in sales and retail. And one of the things that we discussed was pretty much what you're saying, which is asking people specifically about a product isn't necessarily the right way to gauge what they're interested in purchasing. It's to ask about their habits and to ask them around what it is that they would enjoy in that part of their lifestyle. And you can gauge from there exactly what kind of things it is that they may be interested in purchasing. So precisely as you're saying, just directly asking people, would you like to buy this app, is very different from finding out their habits. And then you will be able to judge what features on an app would actually be tailored towards them.
Absolutely. There are lots of tricks in this area. If you're using an app like WhatsApp, think of the experiments they did when they added the button that allows you to send voice messages. If I were in their place, I would add a button that doesn't do anything and just measure how many times people click on the send voice message to see if people actually want to send a voice message. And then collect the data about who wants to send that voice message and what did they do before and after, or where did they do it and what state of their usage. And there's so many tactics of fake doors, and if you want to try to sell something, try to get the credit cards. Go to your investors and tell them, I managed to get 20 credit card numbers on this product. It's much more of a validation than I interviewed 20 people and they said yes. If they said yes, it doesn't mean anything. I want to make sure that they want to pay. So
very nice. Cool. I guess that just brings me on to my pick for the week. This week, I feel like I come up with something not technical most weeks now, but I've just upgraded all of my cookware, and I can't say how happy I am with it. I do all the cooking at home. I bought a load of Le Creuset non-stick pans and a couple of cast irons as well. And I'm having a fantastic time using these things. I really recommend them to anybody who's thinking about it. Fine French cookware. It's expensive, but I think it's definitely worth it.
This is perfect timing when everybody's working from home. So
that's it, isn't it?
You can place some links and at the right place. Will be interesting to see it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that wraps us up for the day. So it just leaves me to say thank you very much to Yair. How can people get in touch with you if they want to shout out to you?
So they can go to our website. It's testfairy.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they can find me on LinkedIn. Spell my name Yair space BAR-ON.
Mm-hmm.
That's Yair Bar-On. And they can find me on Twitter. It's YAIRBA. And if none of these didn't work, then they can find other ways to find me.
Of course. If anybody wants to reach out to me, you can get me on Twitter. My handle's @SternJobName. And if you'd like to just tweet React Native Radio, the Twitter handle's ReactNative_RNR. It would be really cool to get your feedback on the episodes and just hear if there's anything else you'd like to hear going forward. Until next week, see you later.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.